Hey, Step Up Warriors. Mike here with going to try another meeting recap for us. So we met last. I'm filming this on Thursday. We met last night. Fantastic meeting. I know a lot of guys weren't able to make it, so for different reasons. Some were working. I think some were traveling. Some had other obligations. So um, I promised before that I would try to do a recap whenever I could. So I'm going to give this another shot. um, We opened up the meeting with a great meal, of course. We had some good sandwiches. I always thank Jeff and Brad Sherrard for kind of doing the meal coordination. Now that's one thing off my plate that I don't have to keep up with anymore, and I do certainly appreciate that. It's logistically, it's getting to be a little bit more of an ordeal to try to plan a meal for anywhere between 25 and 40 guys. So um, do appreciate you guys for doing that. We started off just with some updates. Um, we had a couple of new guys. Always glad to see those. So those of you who are inviting people, keep doing it. It's been really nice to see some of the turnout. Started off, of course, with our two rules. What's said here stays here, and of course, don't hog the conversation when it comes time to share. Primarily, that's happening in our groups now rather than we're in the general session, if you will. And I thought long and hard about this. I mentioned to the guys last night. We are going to implement a third request, a third rule, if you want to call it that. And it's simply because of the size that we've grown to. And that is, we're going to ask that no one interrupt the speaker whenever they are giving a presentation unless that person has asked, elicited a response from the audience. If they ask for a question, if they ask a question and you want to give an answer, it seems like that's appropriate, then that's fine. But we're too large now of a group to just let people speak at will when someone has gone to the trouble to prepare a presentation. Um, and it's just something that we're going to have to ask that we not interrupt. If you have something that you want to say about what was presented, then we're going to ask that you do that in in your table talk time. That certainly does not go if someone says something that's absolutely unbiblical or out of line. I've not seen that happen since we started meeting. I don't expect that you're going to hear heresy from um, whoever speaks at the table. You may hear things that you don't necessarily agree with doctrinally, but unless it's a complete heresy, then we're going to ask that you not interrupt the speaker. So um, the lesson last night or the discussion last night was out of Acts chapter 9, a fellow by the name of Ananias who God appeared to go and meet with a fellow by the name of Saul, who later became the Apostle Paul, um, and pray for him and encourage him. Um, Ananias was reluctant to do that. Ananias was a believer. He had heard what Saul, this Pharisee, had been doing and going around, um, and he had been literally arresting people with warrants who were followers of Jesus, and was delivering them to the council in Jerusalem for punishment, sometimes even stoning to death. And so Ananias, who was just by all intents and purposes just a regular guy who believed in what they called the way at that time, which was followers of Jesus. We would call that Christianity now. Um, he he was quite surprised to be visited by God in a vision to go to Damascus and and speak to Saul and pray for him. Saul had been struck blind as he was walking on the road to Damascus to go arrest people. Jesus appeared to him, and he was blinded and sent to a house in Damascus. And Ananias was then called about 3 days later to go and pray over Saul. And when he did that, something like scales fell from Saul or Paul's eyes, and um, from that point forward, he began his missionary work for to win souls for Christ. Um, Paul ended up writing 13 books of the New Testament. Uh, it was pointed out to me that I said he wrote most of the New Testament last night. That's not what I meant to say. I meant to say that he wrote the most books of any author in the New Testament. Um, so we know him as the author of Romans, Ephesians, Colossians, several of those the books that he wrote. Um, so the gist of the conversation last night was how many of us, myself included, I gave an example, have been impressed by God to do something that he wants us to do, and we found some excuse not to go do it. Now, Ananias, you would think he had a very, very good excuse. God, I don't think I want to go do this. This guy's killing people like me. It would be no different than if you or I were asked to go over to a Taliban stronghold and stand on the street corner in public and preach that Jesus is the only way to heaven. That could be very unhealthy. But what if that's what God called you to do? And praise God that Ananias had enough faith in God that he went to what could very well have been a deadly encounter with this person who was arresting and being responsible for perhaps the death of some Christians. But he was obedient. And I wonder how many times in your life, I know how many times in my life that, God has led me to do something and I resisted. It was, my common response is, well, that's not my gift. Or when somebody in the church asked me to come and do something for the church or to go do something outside the church in the name of the church because there's a need to be filled. And I didn't really want to do it. So I would use the excuse, that's not my gift. Or I would, I would make up some reason or lean on some reason that I was not able to go and do that. How many blessings have we missed ourselves? And how many blessings have we really cheated other people out of because we did not accept the mission that God gave us? I would venture to say for me that it's probably hundreds. And I am not immune from that now, to still to this day um, find some reason that even though I feel God may be calling me to do something, to find some reasonable excuse that I think that I can lay before God and feel justified in my own skin that I didn't do what I know God was urging me to do. So that's the takeaway. We had great discussion, table discussion last night. At least one guy at my table was very moved because there was something that God had asked him to do quite a few years ago that he just knew God wanted him to do, and he found every excuse not to do it. And now he no longer has the opportunity to do that. And I know that at other tables there were really similar stories that were told. So that's it. Uh, go read Acts chapter 9. Read about Ananias and what he did, and understand that his very small act of obedience, because he wasn't some great preacher, he wasn't some great missionary. Matter of fact, we really never hear about Ananias again. That was his contribution to the faith that we now all share. What a contribution it was. He got to be an instrument in the Apostle Paul's conversion to Christ. So, you know, we may not be the next Billy Graham. We may not be the next Joby Martin or Philip Anthony Mitchell or anybody that you can name that are responsible for bringing thousands of people to Christ. It may just be one. But who knows who that one is? Nobody remembers who baptized Billy Graham, but somebody did. Nobody remembers who shared the gospel with him, but somebody did. And you just might be the next person for that. So you guys have a great week. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. I love you all. There's not a darn thing you can do about it. I hope to see you soon. Y'all take care.